Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, text number 8. Tate nukampam susamikshamana punjana evatmakritam vipakam vipakor viradam namaste jiveta yo muktipade saya sadaya bhak. Anybody recognize that verse? Tat, therefore, te, your, anukampam, compassion, su samikshamanaha, earnestly hoping for, punjanaha, enduring, eva, certainly, atmakritam, done by himself, vipakam, the fruitive results, Frit, with his heart, Vak, words, Vapurbihi, and body, Vidadam, offering, Namaha, obeisances, Te, unto you, Jiveta, lives, Yaha, one who, Muktipade, to the position of liberation, Saha, he, Dayabhat, the rightful heir. Translation: My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you, bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. In response, please. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you, to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering, the reactions of his past deeds, and offering you respectful obeisances, with heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Report. Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has to simply remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. The word susamikshamana indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord, even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that the devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishment that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity tendency to enjoy without the Lord. and therefore the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service, until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to God. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he is willing to accept the Lord's merciful punishment and continue offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, body. Heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardships a small price to pay for gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the words Dayabat. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Pure Lord Krishna without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. Om Gyantimivandasya Gyantuna Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Asmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Yadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sargajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vishavanuste Devi Ramamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasya Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we covered a lot of this yesterday when we were talking about Lord Brahma's position, that even though it's the elevated position of the creator of the universe and the supreme spiritual authority within the universe and material, still the tendency to enjoy the world is there while we have a material body. He says even if we're here for long periods of time, Nasta Prayeshu, Vajreshu, like we're doing every day, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavati Utame Shloka, Bhakti Bhavati Nasaki, then all the restrictions is almost completely destroyed. It's not completely destroyed. Because while we have a material body, we'll be affected by it to some degree. Because we have to function in this world And the saving grace is that we remember Krishna. And the degree, the time scale it takes to remember Krishna is a measure of our Krishna consciousness. Usually it's like the last thing we do. We try everything. Well, then we ask Krishna for help, right? Maybe not everybody, but it's like that with me anyway. And then, but we're supposed to be like that all the time. Does anybody know Dayananda Swami? He was saying that he was actually, I think it was in one of the books about Prabhupada. He was a brahmachari for a whole year. Yeah, that was a long time in those days, a whole year. And so what they did, they needed a temple president somehow or other, they hadn't got one. And so he's in Seattle. And so they all voted him. And he said, I don't want it. So I don't want to be in around for a year. So what can I do? Anyway, he argued, but it's no, you should do it. So he said, I don't know what to do. So he wrote to Prabhupada. And he tells Prabhupada, he said, they give me this post, I don't know what to do. And Prabhupada wrote back and said, that's good. He says, you think the whole project will collapse unless Krishna helps you. So, we have to, if we're going to advance, we have to put ourselves, stick our neck out a little bit, or let's say come out of our comfort zone. It's difficult to get out of the comfort zone, I was saying this yesterday, and we don't have to go over it all again. We get comfortable, but we have to actually, get out of that comfort zone to get Krishna's mercy. So let's see what I've put down here. Put a few notes. There's quite a few things in this. So one thing is anyway. So it's a stay alive in Krishna consciousness. It makes it sound like you're actually struggling to stay alive, doesn't it? You got to stay alive in Krishna consciousness somehow or other. Yena tena prakarina Krishna smara niveshaya. And the Krishna smara niveshaya. Etayor eva kinkara. Sarva vidine shedeshur. Etayor eva kinkara. Yena tena means somehow or other. This is in the Bhagavatam. Somehow or other we have to remember Krishna. And Vishnu Smarana Veshayat. Bhava Vidi Nishedeshu. This is the conclusion of all the Vidi, all the information in the Shastras. And so Prabhupada, he used to quote this quite often. So this more or less says the same thing, that somehow, in other words, we're not really qualified. In this age, we're not. But, it's like in Varnashram Dham. Who's following Varnashram Dham? Who's a pure Brahmin? Any pure Brahmins? Yeah? Any pure anything? We're a real, what we call, we're a real mishmash, aren't we? You might find somebody on the altar one morning, wow, look at that, perfect. Then he's under a truck in the afternoon, doing a manual job. And so this is what it means. Which lots of us fall in between the cracks, is that right? You've got a standard process, but we didn't quite make it. In fact, Krishna Dharma says, if we can't stay brahmachari, we should get married, right? He says lots of them can't stay in brahmachari, they shouldn't get married because they're responsible, they just create havoc. So that's what we have to put up with. There's some, if we analyze a devotee from his ashram, we're not supposed to get it right then. The one Vishnu Smarana, he was a Scottish devotee. He was here and gone all the time. And he was a real character, but he was lovable. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that Krishna felt the same about him. Devotees liked him a lot, but he was like a rogue. So Krishna sees the heart. You know what I mean? We made the things. One devotee, he actually, somebody said something and he swore at him. He was completely out of character. He was like a true Brit. They don't do it. It's like perfect character. And he just came out with something at this devotee. And he didn't expect that he'd do that. But these things are going to happen. We got the past is there. It's just, you know, it's just a little bit away. We managed to keep it at bay, but it's still, our conditioning is still very strong. And if it comes, we should tolerate it. Just like we have to tolerate, the bad reactions that come. This is one of them, is that we have to tolerate who we are. We have to, one message here, I think it was Vishaka, the man, she was talking about integrity, and she was talking about personal integrity. And personal integrity means that we accept ourselves wholeheartedly who we are, even the bad parts. And, it's not like we don't want those bad parts. We want to put them out of the way, right? We don't want anybody to see them. But we have to accept that that's there as well, and love ourselves wholeheartedly. Just put it in words like that. And have compassion, or what's another word? Have compassion on ourselves. Don't beat yourself up for who you are. Krishna knows who we are, and he's still actually gunning for us. So when we realize who we are, we shouldn't be disappointed. Sometimes we can be disappointed. There's one matters here at Soul Street called, I might recognize it, Yashashvini. Yashashvini. She was doing Sankirtan in Manchester for heading up, she was heading up the young brahmacharinis. We had brahmacharinis then, as well as brahmacharis. And she was telling us when she was at Soul Street, she was serving, and she said she did something wrong anyway, and I can't remember how she exactly phrased it. And the temple president was there, and she apologised and said, "Excuse me for my real nature coming out." That's what we've just been talking about, right? My real nature coming out. And the temple president said, "That's not your real nature." Your nature before you actually did that is your real nature. So it's not it seems like it's artificial, but it's not. It's what we should, it's who we really are. We just have to practice, that's all. So we have to embrace all parts of ourselves with compassion. And then we can go forward. We don't feel so bad. Because, we're all in the same boat. It's like if there's any faults thrown at anybody else, it's like the frying pan calling the kettle black, isn't it? We're all in the shower together. Anyway, that's one thing. So stay alive in Krishna consciousness. It means that we're enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness. You can't stay alive if you're not enthusiastic, can you? If you've got no enthusiasm, how are you going to stay alive? There's going to be something to work for. If there's nothing to work for, it's like, it's like, and that's what people do. They're actually, material life does that. Eventually, everybody realizes there's nothing for me. Is anybody that feeling? Everybody. That's why we're here. We've given it us best. They've given us best, right? And we've been defeated. I got to that point. It was like a real eye opener. Not really an eye opener. It was more than that. It was a real. I felt really depressed. There's nothing actually I'm going to succeed at. I've got everything I really need. I'm just if I work hard, if I'm more successful, I'm just going to double up on it. And so that's a position of the devotee, is right for Krishna consciousness. What's the qualification for a devotee in Bhagavatam, 11th canto?
Is it material exhaustion?
Eh?
Material exhaustion.
Material exhaustion. That sounds pretty, yeah. I've just been talking about that. No. Anybody else? Anybody out there?
Love for Krishna.
Eh?
A love for Krishna.
That's a good one as well, isn't it? That's not either. You'll all know it. You'll like this. Says is not too detached, and is not too attached. Right? It means, we admit that there's still some attraction there, but if we're too attached to material life, then you just can't take up devotional service. If you're too detached, you can't take up devotional service, because devotional service means you have to be a person, and you have to act like a person. You know what I mean? And there's got to be interactions. And so, we have to be able to balance things. If we're too detached, we'll not be able to, this heart won't soften. It will be, stiff as anything. And when something happens that we'll actually hide it, or we'll pretend it's not there. What do they call it when you pretend it's not there? You're in
Denial.
Denial, that's the word. We're in denial. And so we should, chill out a little bit. In the beginning, when the devotee takes up devotional service, it's like, I remember when I first took it, I was on the run. I thought I had to be on the run from Maya. We are in one respect. But then we have to, it's going to be a long run, it's going to be a marathon. So we have to tune into what's needed for the marathon. And when you see people on the marathon, every so often they'll stop and have a drink. But they won't stop, they'll have a drink, to keep the body going. There's got to be some sustenance there. What we're going to lead on to now, this is we'll come back to this point. It says we have to tolerate, right? Tolerate the reactions that come. And we were saying yesterday about tolerate, weren't we? Do we? Anybody remember anything from yesterday? What verse did we quote?
Matras patras kantia.
Yeah, we didn't quote it though. Matras passes to contia. You know, happiness and distress is going to be there due to, you know, today it's sunny, tomorrow anything could happen. And then, you know, in the kitchen, when you're cooking in the kitchen, sometimes it's really hot, sometimes it's so, you know, sensual perception's always there. What's the other one? That's it, isn't it? That's great quotes. Cooking in the summer and tolerating, you know, taking a bath in the winter. But, it's like you've got to be as tolerant as a tree. Have you heard that before? Why do we say tree?
It's
Why do we-
rooted and grounded, and it can
Yes.
sway with the wind.
You mean it's not rigid?
Correct.
Okay,
Has some degree of flexibility.
okay, it's not rigid.
It takes the seasons.
Eh?
It can take the seasons.
It tolerates the seasons. Okay, winter and summer.
Doesn't respond whilst it's tolerant.
Eh?
It doesn't respond, as in it doesn't argue back. Someone might even carve things into the side of the tree, but it doesn't protest.
Some people say the earth's more tolerant. You know, people are walking all over it. They're doing everything on the earth, aren't they? You know what I mean? So it seems like the earth is more tolerant, right? But so why do we say tree? You nearly got it there, actually. It's because the earth complains, doesn't it? When did the earth complain? Eh?
Earthquakes.
Yeah, but I mean in Shastra,
First canto.
the earth complained to the demigods and Lord Brahma about all these ruffians who are on the surface, you know. But the tree doesn't. Tree doesn't complain. I once saw, you know, there were a fence, and you know, I think it was like a flexible fence. You know what the person who put the fence up was treeing away and just he cut a quarter of the tree away so his fence would be straight. All he had to do was, you know, just bend it round the tree. Especially in this age, we have to be tolerant. And, you know, as tolerant as a snail. Have you heard that one? No. Well, you know, this person, he was actually, he was stressed out, completely stressed out. And so he decided to take a break in the country. And so he hired a, you know, a little bungalow, what do they call them? Little place in the country where he could actually... Cottage, that's it. And, you know, businessman. So I thought, wow, it's so good to be in the countryside, you know. I can have a break now. And so I heard a knock at the door and I thought, oh God, you know, I thought we were all alone. I thought I was going to have a break. So he went to the door and there's nobody there. They thought somebody's actually going to go to you. And so I looked down and saw this snail. And this snail said, can you lend us a tenner? £10, you know. Chicken monkey, he said. He picked the snail up and he threw it a good distance, you know. And he said, that's into that, you know. So he shut the door and he was going on. He went there for a few weeks, you know, he needed it. Then after a week, well, this knock on the door again. He went to the door, there was nobody there. He looked down and there was a snail. And the snail said, what did you do that for? So he was tolerant, you know. You don't find that in Shastras, I don't really. Prabhupada used to use things which no, he didn't. So, yeah, so we have to absorb ourselves in the process of, this is what it means to tolerate and Vishaya Vinivardhante, Neharashidena, Rasovarjam, Rasopyasya. We have to get Rasovarjam. Param Drishpa means a higher vision or higher taste. And we only do that if we're engaged in devotional service. And I was listening to a lecture yesterday by Prabhupada, and he said that all we have to do is to chant the holy name and engage in service, and we're liberated. When we're doing that, we're liberated. It don't feel like it sometimes, does it? But, you know, when we're in Harinam, if we're really into it, we're liberated. I seem to be in Harinam, they just forgot everything. And they're just like, you're not a part of this world anymore. So this is a process that we work on the liberated platform. Anybody know a verse with the liberated platform?
Brahmabhuta Prasanatma.
Hey?
Brahmabhuta Prasanatma.
That's one, yeah. But this is more or less Mamchayo Abhyabhicharena Bhakti Yogana Sevate Sadhanan Samatichetam Brahma Bhuya Kalpate. He said it says that one who's engaged in devotional service, it's like this verse, with body, mind and words, as it says, who doesn't fall down in any circumstance, is considered liberated while on the material platform. Iha Yasha Hare Dasha Kamana Manasagila. Kama, the same as Kama means work, Manasa means mind, Gira means words. These are the three things we have to engage. And so that's the way we actually tolerate. We can't tolerate with, grittiness teeth. It doesn't work. It will work for some time, that's all. And this is what the impersonalists are doing. This is why it says we have to be balanced. If we're trying to, be too strict all the time, it just it destroys us and those around us as well if we're not careful. So it's a scientific process. It's a scientific, we can't just, next of devotion tells us that we should be, it says it's like a child. A child learns to walk. You've heard that example. And that for years I thought, what's he talking about? He learns to walk. But the ability is in the child. It's not by practice. I thought, it is by practice. He has to start walking along, and he's practicing, isn't he? And so I could never get it. What's it mean? And it means that you can't practice like then ding. You can't just practice being a gopi. You can't practice being a coward or practice being a peacock or something like that. You can't practice being in the spiritual world. You have to follow a process. And that is practice. They call it devotional service in practice. And that seed of devotion we were talking about yesterday in the heart, then that fructifies. So in other words, it's scientific. And I was looking up scientific in the dictionary. And what first one I came to was what was it now? Anyway, it said that it's an authorized process. You practice something according to an authorized process, and ultimately it's saying that there were different types of sciences. Two of the sciences, it says it's you're practicing according to a hypothetical goal, something you don't know. And so I thought, well, that don't tie in with ours, does it? We know what the goal is. And then it said for, when we are actually practicing the science of mathematics and chemistry and all these things, then it's actually, it's what they call a deductive process. It's coming down. And so that's our process. The process is, it's laid out for us. And if we actually follow it, we'll have no problems, very little problems. The only problems we'll have is, when we don't follow it, and problems in relationship to performing the service, right? We get problems with service, but it's not actually a problem. The problem is that we don't follow it by forgetting Krishna again. Like this devotee, in Seattle, Prabhupada hitting the nail on the head straight away. Just remember that Krishna is actually empowering you. He's actually doing it. So just remember that and try your best. It's just like a young boy. His father, his father's doing a belt, and can I ever go, Dad? Okay. So he gets over him. He's not going to lift him. So his dad's from behind. He lifts him up for him. So he's thinking, whoa. That's what's really happening. We're actually just puppets. Anybody, does that ring a bell? Puppets. Prabhupada said, "Make me a puppet," didn't he? When he came to America. He says, "I've got the name Bhaktivedanta." He says, "Now you can fulfill the meaning of that word. You can give me the ability." And he admitted that nobody's capable of practicing Krishna consciousness here. They're too far gone. They're in a mode of passion and ignorance. And he was right. It's just by Krishna's mercy coming through his devotee. So we keep availing ourselves of the mercy. That's how we remain alive in Krishna consciousness. Just be grateful for the mercy we've got, and be, eager for more mercy, and act in a way that we get that mercy. And it's a dawdle. That's what Prabhupada said. He says, you'll go back to God if you just do that. That's what it said in this verse. See if there's any more points. Here we are, systematic discipline. This is what science is. Systematic discipline based on descending or factual knowledge. So another point is, what does lecture instruction say about the discipline? Enthusiasm. You have to be enthusiastic. What does it take to be enthusiastic?
Is it endeavor with intelligence?
Yeah, that's one answer. Usually we think we've got to be jumping 6 foot in the theatre. I mean, it does help. But
is it consistent?
least resistant.
No, consistent.
Consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, we have to consistently be enthusiastic. One of Prabhupada's, disciples said, how can I be enthusiastic, Prabhupada? He says, just be enthusiastic. You can either be unenthusiastic or enthusiastic. It's simple as that. You can just see the positive side, or you can see the negative side, right? If you're always seeing the positive side, you'll always be enthusiastic. I mean, sometimes the positive side looks a little bit thin sometimes, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So that's when we need help, We need to actually associate with another devotee. But be careful who you associate with as well. I was traveling to Russia, and one place, they said it was Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's area. He was a GBC, and he used to visit every 6 months. And they were telling me that we were talking about association. There were two brahmacharis in the temple, and one of them, they were having a hard time. And so he went to the other brahmachari and revealed his mind. And the other one were having a hard time. So they both left. When Dr. Chaitanya Maharaj came, he said, "Where's them brahmacharis?" And he told him what had happened, And anyway, they both eventually came back, But he said, you don't associate like that. You associate with somebody who's more experienced, And it worked. That's how it works. We don't think so. We can hear something like, KK. Is it KK or KK?
Okay.
KK. She was actually, she loved Lord Ramachandra like her own son. And then, Mantra came along. She was thinking she was going to lose a position. When Lord Ramachandra took the throne, she wouldn't be in a prestigious position. She was, the servant of the favourite queen. And so she started pecking away at KK. And she's, when Lord Chaitanya takes the throne, then, you'll be ousted. You'll and she didn't believe him. She didn't believe her. But KK knew his science, and she kept pecking away, and eventually she created doubt in KK's mind. And then she was convinced. And that's how it works, association. But if you want to remain enthusiastic, be enthusiastic. And if you're struggling to be enthusiastic, go and talk to somebody who's enthusiastic. Because enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm. And moroseness breeds moroseness, doesn't it? What is it? Misery. What is it? Misery likes good. What's that word? Misery
Likes company.
Misery likes company. Yeah. When we've got some, something which is bothering us, and we've got somebody else who want to share it, right? So that person has to be stronger than you, otherwise he'll also take on those qualities. So we're talking about tolerate. This is the point, and as in the Bhagavad Gita, enthusiasm, I put confidence. When we're confident, we can be enthusiastic. We have to be confident. That's the same point. And this confidence it's conviction. The conviction comes from hearing. Because also from conviction or confidence comes toleration, patience. Because along with enthusiasm, we have to have patience. So, in Bhagavad Gita, in the 26th verse, 13th chapter, it gives 2 or 3 things which will help us to become Krishna conscious, like renunciation and like that, And then it says, somebody who just hears this process, then immediately can take up the process. And that's our position, isn't it? We've just heard from the right source. Okay, so if we carry on hearing, we'll carry on being enthusiastic. We've got 10 minutes left. The Lord reciprocates with our attitude. Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Is that right? Does he reciprocate with what we do? Does it reciprocate with how we feel? It reciprocates with what we do to encourage us. He can do it. He don't need it. You know what I mean? He can do everything. It's just a means for us becoming purified. What he's reciprocating with is what is our attitude. What's our attitude, And where does it say, why does it talk about attitude? In Bhakti Shastra's scriptures. Right at the beginning of an nectar instruction, don't it? So we have to become a Swami, not a goddess. He says, and therefore he says, controlling the senses. So he says it's all about dependent on our attitude. Chanting Hare Krishna won't save us in that respect if the attitude is not there. It'll purify us, but it's like sex life. Prabhupada many times said we have to be determined. We have to be determined, but we don't want that anymore. And then we'll be okay. All right, rivers flow into where's that? Second chapter. That last verse of the second chapter, it says, the devotee is like, he remains calm. We're talking about sitting yet, how does he sit? So this is the same one. When rivers come into the ocean, the ocean doesn't go up or down. It stays steady. It says, so that desires may come to us. We can't remain desireless. And sometimes untoward desires will come up from the past and they'll be triggered by what we see. And so, if you're going to preach, we've got to be able to deal with that. We can go to the Himalayas and then there may still be some triggers. And so desires may come to us, but the actual, what's the word it uses? The inclination is not there anymore. We're not inclined, but we're still bothered by them. So yeah, Krishna reciprocates with the heart. He's looking for a change of heart. And we can do that. We can make our mind up. Do we want to change the heart? Or do we want to carry on as we are? The chanting will change us, but we have to be able to actually also deal with things practically. And this is where we need Shastra, which keeps us steady, Shastra. I was once on Sankirtan, and I was on my own this time. I used to go out. It weren't like Sankirtan, it were paintings. We used to sell paintings as brahmacharis. Put a flat hat on, suit, roller paintings. And this time I was on my own, so I drove to where I was, and I felt I don't really want to get out of the car. For some, I felt really vulnerable, So I went to the phone box. There were no mobiles, and I rang Shivram Swami up. You know what he said? What do you think he said? Get out of here. I called me Abba, and he said, read, Abba, read. He's a deep boy. So I went and sat down and read for about an hour, and I felt, wow, I felt great. So it's a scientific process. We just have to keep applying it. And, Maya will always actually bring things in front of us which will distract us. As we practice more in devotional service, Krishna's making sure that we're completely freed from them desires, and they'll come up again. They'll come again. And we have to keep taking shelter till we're 100% taking shelter. So this is what it means to stay alive in Krishna consciousness. Yeah? We stay alive by taking shelter of the one who's giving all life, Krishna. So we can stop there. I think it's 5 to. Any questions or comments?
Okay, so we went to Zoom first yesterday, so we can go to the room first today. Does anybody have a question or you'd like to share a real after hearing the class? That's very unusual.
What?
There we go.
How do we know? Hare Krishna, Maharaj. How do you know the difference between someone that's enthusiastic and someone that's in like the mode of passion?
Somebody is
Enthusiastic, or if someone's just like in the mode of passion.
well, we have to use the mode of passion. The mode of passion's not faulty, but if it's a material passion, it's faulty. So we need passion to do anything in Krishna consciousness, don't we? We can't be in ignorance. Otherwise we won't get anything done. We're criticizing them. So I know what you mean. Somebody who's genuinely enthusiastic and somebody who's still his material passions driving him to do things. But that's okay, because devotional service facilitates that. You know, that was Prabhupada's expertise, in that he came to deal with people who nobody else could deal with. They're all stoned out of their head, a lot of them in the beginning. Oh, you know, they were crazy. In fact, everybody's crazy in the material world, you know. And so he had to find ways to engage them. And he actually said, didn't he? I can't remember the exact phrase. He says, I just want one sincere soul, and I can make the whole world Krishna conscious in 18 days or something like that, didn't he? I'm not sure about the quote, but anyway, he alluded to that. He just needed somebody who was actually wanted the sun, not many stars. And he could train him up. He didn't have to go out, you know, passionately doing everything. He had passionate disciples who were, you know, who were actually intelligent and had ability. So he engaged them in that pursuit and built a movement on that. So, you know, passion's used in Krishna consciousness. It's not passion anymore. It changes its. It says that, doesn't it? You overcome your activities with devotional service or with a devotional mentality. It doesn't remain passionate anymore. So, how should we think then? We said we should, you know, when some things, we know we've got faults, and when they surface sometimes, we may feel, you know, like really unenthusiastic, dejected, morose, you name it. So, like this is mentioned also in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 20th chapter, text, I think it's 27 and 28. And I can't remember the Sanskrit, but it explains that my devotee, although he's, you know, he's engaged in devotional service, although he's attached to sense gratification and he succumbs to it, right? You know, he should remain happy in devotional service. That means that's we understand what's happening. It's not us, it's the body, it's the mind. And we don't give in to that. We keep taking shelter of Krishna. We're the soul. He should remain happy in devotional service, knowing that all this sense gratification will only lead to misery. And you know, he should repent. He should lament that he's doing that, but remain enthusiastic. He should understand this is not the way to go. I'm suffering now because of my own fault. I keep doing the same thing and now I'm suffering. But the only way out is to carry on. we should remain happy in devotional service. You know, when we took up devotional service, well, we pure. You know, but we were happy, weren't we? Wow, I found the answer. So every day we've got the answer. We should be happy that we've got the answer. Okay. Anything from the out there in the
Unitude had something?
I did have a question from yesterday, Maharaj. You said yesterday that just by hearing, all the inauspicious things in the heart gradually go away. My question is, do you need to share those things or just let them rise and gradually go away on their own?
do we shed them?
Share.
Share them?
Yeah, should we share them or not?
What do you mean?
Well, reveal one's mind.
Eh?
Revealing one's mind. Or just let them be.
What do you mean? Share them.
Speak
You've got auspicious things,
the
right?
inauspicious things in there.
Inauspicious things in the mind.
Should I speak about them to a senior devotee or should I just...
Oh, share them with somebody else.
Yeah,
If you need to,
okay.
there's no need to. If you know what's happening, you probably know the answer anyway. You know the answer's give them up.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, you can go. You need a cushion sometimes. You know, we need some company. We need. We're not made of bricks. That's what they used to with Dayananda. He were always enthusiastic like anything. And if there was somebody in the temple who were feeling, unenthusiastic or morose, or they used to send him to work with Dayananda for the day. It used to rub off. So that's what you need to do. They will shed gradually up. They'll just dissolve. It's all because of the false ego. We're not identifying with our real identity, otherwise we'll never be morose. And it says devotional service dissolves the false ego. Have you ever seen anything dissolve? It just goes little and it's gone. It's effortless. Okay, anything else?
Is there anything else in the room? Okay. All right then. So we have several devotees in Zoom land. So if you would like to ask Maharaj a question on the topic or share a realization after hearing the class, then please do the usual Zoom scenario and raise a hand, please.
For short of time, I think.
Okay. Gillian, please go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for being so clear. And Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Master.
Okay, thank you, Gillian. Anything from anybody else? Don't be shy. Maharaj is the most approachable, friendly Swami in the land. Okay then. Oh,
Can I ask something else? Or is that okay? Speak up. Can I ask something else?
Yeah.
It's just something came up whilst we were giving the class, thinking about how certain things in the world they need. It's a material problem that needs a material solution. But certain problems, like you said yesterday, come up and they just require, they can't be solved. They just require us to like surrender to, to pray to Krishna or surrender to Krishna more. So how do we know whether a material problem requires a material solution, or we just need to surrender more and just, it's not a big problem. I just need to surrender more. I need to pray more so it'll go away.
Well, we're always, if we're in good consciousness, we're always in a mode of dependence. It's not like, we're doing one and then the other. Complete surrender or complete forgetfulness. We're Bhagavad Gita says, doesn't it? Sa eva yamayate yoga pratma bhaktosi me sakhat rahasya meta utman. He's telling Arjuna that because you're my friend, my devotee, well, that's the wrong one, isn't it? We should work at the same time, remember Krishna. That's the answer. And then if we're conscious of Krishna, he can actually give us the intelligence to go forward with it and know what to do. But we have to work as if it's all dependent on us. But I always remember that the results dependent on Krishna. Amanya evekaraste ma paleshu kadashana ma falakama hetu ma te stano stuakamani. You have a right to perform your duties, but don't be attached. Never think yourself the cause of the fruits of your activities. This is the great art of doing our work. It says one remains enthusiastic but detached, and it takes patience and perseverance to come to that platform. That we're not disturbed if the result doesn't come. We're concerned. Prabhupada was concerned about this movement, about how to push it. But he was if you notice when he speaks, he's always saying we. He was talking about him and his spiritual master. He was always dependent on, the link in devotional service. Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he was preaching in Eastern Europe, and it was very successful. Can you imagine? In Eastern Europe, there's no coloured people. You know that, or there weren't. There may be now, just a few, not so many. And he was preaching all the Eastern Bloc, and he's got a black body, and he actually, in fact, they don't like foreigners in that part of the world, or the government push that anyway. Especially if you're the wrong colour. And he was successful. He was selling more books than anybody in universities. And Prabhupada was actually jubilant just listening to reports. And so when he came back to America, he was in Prabhupada's association, and Kamala Krishna Maharaj were reading out his scores. And Prabhupada was like ecstatic, and he embraced him and rubbed his head. And then Kamala Krishna had the bright idea to said, "Why don't you read your own scores out?" And Bhaktivedanta Maharaj said, "I don't really want it. It don't seem to gel with me. That I don't think it'll be okay." So he started reading his own scores out, and Prabhupada completely ignored him. He didn't even look at him. And then when he finished reading his scores out, he says, "You are not the doer." And he says, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj said that at that point, I was in ecstasy, he said. He said, "I realised that, Prabhupada loves me." He was actually checking him. Anyway, that's our attitude today. So we've got to think like that, yeah. We can also ask devotees. Why not? That's what they're there for.
Okay, so we have one question or comment from one of the devotees on Zoom. It's Kushbu Mataji. Would you like to unmute and ask your question? She did have a hand up and then she's left a comment, but maybe she's had to go away from her device. Let's see if we can read. Oh, she's unmuted.
Would it be possible? Can you please just read it to Maharaj if it is okay? Because, yeah, he'll probably understand it better.
Okay, Mataji. So the question
Hare
is,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class, Maharaj. It was very insightful. My question is, how do we understand what kind of association is actually good for us? Because at our level, at least for me, it's sometimes difficult to clearly discern.
We don't in the beginning sometimes. We have to see who's serious, what devotees are serious and seriously practicing devotional service. We don't have to be a boffin to understand that, you know. And you know, if somebody's like not so serious, then it's best not to actually go there. And you know, Shastra says that, that those who are not so serious, we should pay as obeisances from a distance. We should respect them, but we shouldn't get too close, otherwise we'll develop the same traits. So we you know, if we associate with serious devotees, it might be painful as well, you know. It's not easy, but we're told to associate with those that have the same type of mood as well. And the mood really is that they're seriously engaged in devotional service, you know, that's the real mood. But also we do hit it off with some devotees and not with others. So, you know, if we find that we're inspired in our devotional service with certain association, then that's the way we should go. That's really the answer. We have to see where we're inspired, you know, to actually become more serious about devotional service. And it's actually helping us. And then we know that we're on the right track. You know, we can associate with devotees who have the same mood, but we might not have the right mood if we're looking on a material platform. And then, you know, then it has a wrong effect. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that, Kushbu. So, wonderful explanation. Thank you, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances, Hare Krishna. And this will have to be the last question now because Maharaj just had another live broadcast at 10. So Jennifer, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, good morning. My question is, how do we forgive ourselves for serious past mistakes made in the past that can haunt us? I'm talking about myself.
I didn't quite catch that. How do we forgive ourselves?
Yeah, do you just want to say it again, Jennifer?
Yes. How do we forgive ourselves for serious mistakes made in the past, especially when they keep coming back to give us trouble? And of course, I'm speaking about my own experience.
We repent. It's purifying. We at least we recognise that we're doing it again and again, and we, if we keep actually appreciating that, that repentance purifies the heart. But it shouldn't be so deep that it completely takes away our ability to practice devotional service. We have to maintain that at all costs, whatever we've done. Whatever we've done, it's not. It can't be forgiven. Is that right? It can be forgiven. Whatever. So we, it don't matter if everybody in the movement hates us. It's not a very good situation, is it? But it don't matter. I can still serve Krishna. Krishna's in the heart, and I have to. Yeah, as long as I've got the right attitude towards serving him, it's Krishna will give us the intelligence to go forward. That's all I can really say on that.
Okay, thank you for that, Jennifer. Okay then, we'll have to wrap up the class now. So a big thank you to the devotees who've joined us on Zoom. This will be the last Zoom program from His Holiness Dayananda Swami while he's here in Folkestone. But those who live geographically close to Folkestone, we'll be having a Harinam this afternoon in Folkestone just after 3 p.m. and the Sunday feast will begin at 4 p.m. this afternoon. So thank you for joining us, and a very special thank you to His Holiness Dayananda Swami. His Holiness Dayananda Swami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai, Shishi Prahlad Singha ki jai, Shishi Nitai Gaurasunda ki jai, Vaishnav Sangha, Vaishnav Seva ki jai, Nitai Gaura Pramanande. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Hare Krishna.